So you have studied directing and screenwriting at FMO in Písek, if I'm correct. So how did
Yes.
that environment shape your storytelling voice? And when was the like when you thought about becoming a filmmaker as well?
Okay. I decided to become a filmmaker pretty early when I was like 12 or something. I don't know why. I just sort of loved it and decided that's the way I should approach. And yeah, somehow I'm still making films. And yeah, I've studied the Film Academy in Písek in the Czech Republic, which is a private school. And I've finished the school in 2013, so like 12 years ago. So I had quite a prolonged pause in between like graduating and starting working on my projects. So I was like in between. I was working for film festivals in production and other jobs, and yeah, it took me like 5 years to actually start developing my feature projects. And in between, I just made like one short film for my own money, which was great. But I decided that it's so hard to make it, with short films, and there are so many of them that I was like, okay, from now on, I will approach only feature films and see how that goes. And yeah, and in 2018, I was lucky to be awarded the prize for the script of my first feature film in Czechia. And so that was like the first impulse really that started, let's say, my career or so. But it really pushed me towards finding a producer and starting financing the films. So like that was 2018, and I got development funding and then the production funding and so on. So there was like this one major push for me after years of waiting and writing for myself and trying to sort of start, a career in the film industry.
Totally, totally. So your debut after party was inspired by a real family struggle with that. So what inspired the story and what was the theme like you were trying to say?
It was, yeah. I mean, in my family, we were going through some very tough years. It took many years, and sort of what's the word? It sort of blew out in 2015 when my father was imprisoned for fraud, and he made huge debts that we lost our apartment and all the stuff and had to move out. And it was really tough, but on the other hand, it was very inspiring in terms of filmmaking, because I always thought that it's the best way to make films is to draw from your own life, whatever the inspiration. And this sort of tragic events, even though, yeah, they were tough, they did inspire me in terms of like, yeah, I started thinking of like if there is a possibility or like a way for me to sort of adapt it into film. And I did not want to make like straight up autobiography, because life is way too complicated to be put in film. So I was like just drawing some elements that I knew and experienced, some moments, and I built like a story of its own that was hugely inspired. But yeah, I wanted to be like a unique story that would work on its own, but that would, yeah, draw some stuff from my own life.
Okay, okay. So after your Stars of Tomorrow accolades in 2018, the project received Czech Film Fund. So how instrumental was the funding in transitioning After Party from script to screen? And what aspect like development, pre-production, shooting did it enable?
Mhm. I mean, yeah. After receiving the award for the script, I was approached by my producer Marek Novak, who and we got along well. So we decided, okay, let's make a film out of this. So we applied for film funding, and we were lucky to receive the development funding rather right away, like in the during the first call, and. And then, yeah, the development process was rather long because I think with each debut feature, it takes time to really figure out how you want to, you know, tell the story and what to omit, what to put on into the script. So we were developing it for like a year, and we wanted to shoot in 2020, and we even received the production funding like not even a year afterwards. But then the pandemic of COVID happened, sort of. So like the whole world, you know, stopped for a minute, and because the initial versions were sort of dealing with dystopia and like the story was set in 2030 Czechia, and there were masks involved, and so. But suddenly, when the pandemic started, it was something so unexpectedly similar to the world I was trying to create in the film that I was sort of blown away by it, and I was like, okay, so if the world is so bad like this, I cannot, you know, make the film the way I intended, because like the circumstances sort of changed everything. So we were waiting for some more production money, and so in the meantime, I was just rewriting and trying to find out the right way. And yes, we had to postpone like 2 years, but then in 2022, we decided, okay, we have to shoot the film because we have the money, so we have to make it smaller and simpler. So that was like the final push towards the production, because I think one could stay in development forever, because, you know, it's really hard to say, okay, the script is ready, everything's perfect. It doesn't work like this. So I think like the external push works better when you have like a deadline, and we suddenly were like, okay, so we're shooting in 3 months. So I had to finish the script rather quickly, make it simpler than I expected, because we had to narrow down everything, because we had like smaller budget than we initially were working with. And yeah, and then we shot it, and
After Party secured co-production as well. So what did each partner play financially and creatively?
it was with After Party, it was pretty simple, because we were trying to have another country involved in terms of co-productions, but we did not get the funding from Slovakia, because there's a huge competition every time, and the funding is very limited. So we did not get it, and we had to work with only the Czech funding, and then we had Czech television to come on board. But mostly, as it was just Czech project, in the end there were not many partners involved, and so there were not really any requirements like regarding where we have to shoot, or whom we have to cast or employ. So it was up to us, really. So we were working with the Czech crew, and mostly, and we were shooting near Prague, and because it was like the budget was very limited, we had to shoot the film in like 14 days, which is rather quick and challenging. But we had to really make it stripped down in terms of production and technology, to be able to pull it off, really, in this very limited amount of time that we were given. Yeah.
So it was shown in Venice. So what was your experience in Venice and what was the audience reaction towards the film?
I mean, it's like a dream come true to be premiering in Venice, and right away with your feature debut. So I was, yeah. I mean, it was great. but also there's so much stress involved always with premiering that you sort of realize what you have been through right afterwards. So I was leaving Venice, I was like, oh God, this just happened, and I had my film shown in Venice. And regarding the audience reaction, it's tough to say. I mean, because you're at the cinema, I mean, it's been full, but you can only tell part of like what the reaction is, and then you start reading the reviews, and you suddenly find out, okay, so some people really hated it, some people liked it, and so I think it was like mixed all over. Like the reviews that were coming out were either average or above average, so they were fine mostly. But it's always tough when you put the work you've been, you know, working on for years out, and suddenly, you know, it's the audience now, you know, on the receiving end, and and their reaction is the genuine one because they are seeing it for the very first time, you know, unburdened with the whole experience. So it's hard when you're suddenly, you know, reading some critiques that are harsh or so, but it's part of the game. So I mean, you get used to it, but overall, like, yeah, the reactions were like, yeah, we got some good ones, some bad ones, but nice. But the whole experience in Venice was, yeah, just lovely. That's all I can say, really.
Great, great, great. So let's talk about the other side of summer. So,
hmm
what funding and grant did you secure for the other side of summer, and how did support each stage support the film development and production?
I mean, it was sort of a similar way because I started the project, I don't know, like 2 years after party. I mean, after I started writing after party, so I was writing both projects at once, you know, in turns. And at some point, it even seemed that The Other Side of Summer would be my debut feature if we got the funding earlier. But we received it afterwards. So I shot it 1 year after party. So 2022 we shot after party. 2023 we shot The Other Side of Summer. And yeah, after party premiered last year, and The Other Side of Summer is premiering this year. So it was like I was working at two projects at once, or, you know, sort of. And we we sort of went through a very similar funding process in terms of we got the development from Czech Film Fund, we got the production funding, even not for the first time, but for the second time. And we got a slightly higher budget, both from Czech Film Fund and then from the Czech television. And so it was slightly bigger, but there were a lot of changes from 2022 to 2023, especially given the war in Ukraine, because suddenly everything got very much more expensive. And even though we had more money, everything got way more expensive. So we were not really in a luxurious place of having so much more money. But we had a bit more time. So like the film is slightly bigger, but we had to shoot it in like 3 weeks, like 21 days. So it was slightly longer than After Party, but still very short, you know, compared to most of the films being shot in like 30 days or even more. Right? But yeah, so like in terms of production, it was sort of similar. Like we got the Czech funding and Czech television as a co-producer, and we had like a Croatian co-producer, but we never got the Croatian funding. We were applying more times, but also there's like very limited budget they are working with, and a lot of projects applying. So we never got it, but we were shooting part of the film in Croatia with our Croatian co-producers, but we were mostly working with the Czech money. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, what inspired the core idea for the film, for the other side of summer?
Like that was something I was thinking of, like since being a teenager, caught up somewhere in between, like watching music videos, playing video games, watching films, and sort of spending my summer holidays. I always I always thought there's like so much expectations people place on like summer holiday, like after, you know, after school, and they want to, you know, experience something big and you know, surprisingly adventurous and incredible. But in the end, usually the reality is much more ordinary and not that awesome. So I was working with this sort of contrast of like having like expectations where you want to be, with whom you want to be during the summertime, and where you end up being. And yeah, and I really wanted to portray like a typical Czech holiday by a pond or a lake, you know. And I had this group of female characters that were sort of spending summertime by the water. And at some point, I sort of devised this water hole or water pond that would transport people across the world, possibly. So because I really wanted to put some mysterious elements to the story, and this was like a game changer for me. So I built the whole idea for the script around this place that can transport you almost anywhere in the world, but not where you would expect to get to. So yeah, so that was the start of the idea. And I think I got the idea, it was slightly inspired by a Super Mario video game series, like, because they're the pipes that will lead you to other places. So I was thinking, okay, this is how this portal should work. So that was, yeah, that was behind the core idea for the film.
Okay, great. So while making the film, like what was the biggest challenge you faced?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge is always the time and money, because in the end, more money means you have more time, and more time means, you know, more safety, more rest, and more repeating takes. And so, because like the film is very ambitious in terms of like, yeah, I wanted to, there's like a lot of swimming, and like shooting in water is always very difficult. There's this portal thing that we were creating. So there was a lot of things we had to really figure out how to do with this very limited budget and time. Because in the end, when you have a smaller budget and lesser time, then you have to shoot like with whatever the weather is, you know, whatever the conditions are. So you cannot really wait for the perfect conditions, like, never. So either if it's raining or sunny, you have to sort of you know, shoot. So that was very tough, and especially for the actresses, you know, even though you're shooting in summer, it's always very cold because you're going to water and out, and especially the being able to, you know, you're thinking of scenes where, I don't know, characters are submerging into water, you know, and you have these ideas, and you write a scene, you're thinking of it like for years, but then you're on the set and you have like one take because the weather's I don't know, it's going to rain, and there's no time to reset the hair. So that was like the most challenging thing in terms of like surviving it and capturing whatever you know you want to capture, because you can strip down everything, but then you have to shoot something, and yeah, with the very few takes and very limited amount of time, it's that's, I think, the biggest challenge of not just low budget filmmaking, in filmmaking in general, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, great. So like it's going to like you have made so much effort for the film, like it's going to be shown in now Carlo. So how nervous are you? How excited are you? Like if the audience will watch the film, like what do you want them to take away from the film?
I'm not nervous yet, I think, because I've been so busy the last few weeks with finishing all the materials and stuff, that there was no time for me to really get nervous, and sort of I got used to this idea of being in front of people and showing my work. So I'm like I'm actually looking forward to it, to the experience, because it's like once you're at the premiere at the cinema and the sound is on, the picture looks fine, then it's just done, it's finished, and whatever whatever comes after is none of your business, because it's other people and their reactions to it. But it's finished compared to, let's say, theater or something, because like, yeah, the film is done. So I'm looking forward to this, because that will be like the moment when you really release it out into the world, and what I want the audience to take from it. I mean, even in my debut, which was dealing with like family in debts, that's like more bleak theme. Here is like dealing with let's say, unfulfilled dreams. I mean, I'm trying to portray like normal life, enhanced in genre storytelling, but I'm always aiming for something that is not depressing and bleak, because I think what I want to really achieve is like not really uplifting in a way, but yeah, I hope people will have good time watching it. Actually, I think it works both as a art house film and both as a like audience friendly film, and that's what I'm keen on making in the future as well, because I think that's like, it's tricky to navigate both worlds, but I think it's possible. So that's what I'm really trying with all my projects. So we'll see. We'll see in a few days, like what the reactions are.
Okay, great, great, sure. So, like, are there like your favorite films and filmmakers that have inspired you a lot or influenced you a lot, like in general, not just for
In
this?
general. Hmm, that's tough. That's tough, because there is a lot of them. But even if I go from the other side of summer, which was inspired by a lot of stuff. I mean, among many, I was inspired by series like Lost or The Leftovers, which are very much working in this mysterious and real life genres. And I was really inspired by like ensemble films, like from John Ford or Howard Hawks or Alfred Hitchcock. I love old films, and I love yeah, yeah, like John Ford. You can watch just his films again and again, and there's a lot of inspiration in terms of like portraying the characters, the group dynamics, and the compositions, everything. But those are like some partial inspirations. I'm thinking others. Especially because The Other Side of Summer is like a summer film. There was a partly inspiration from La Ciénaga by Lucrecia Martel, which is like a very slow summer film, which like that's like the best depiction of summer I have ever seen, I think, in cinema. And also by Avichapong Verazetakul's Uncle Bunmi, who can recall his past lives. That's like, of course, it's a differently working art house film, but in terms of like switching genres and working with this slowness of summer and different fantasy and mysterious elements, that was like a really big inspiration as well, even though it's very different. But I admire his work a lot. Yeah.
Great. So, my last question is like from your filmmaking journey, like there are a lot of aspiring filmmakers. So, what advice would you give them?
I mean, it's a tough life in this industry, but if you really want to do it, you just have to do it and keep on pushing, because it's like the conditions are always harsh and not in your favor, really. But you have to sort of keep pursuing this career if you want to, and there's no single way. I mean, you can shoot films per month. I mean, you can do like commercial stuff, you can do art house, whatever you want, and you need to survive, because there's always this tough balance of like surviving and making a living, and then creating art or stuff that you would love to see. And yeah, it's tough navigating that, and the world is not making it any easier for us. But just I don't know, like try to make it as simple as possible, and yeah, because you can make a great film in very limited conditions in terms of money and technology and stuff. Like it's the tools
Great.
are there, so it's just about it just boils down to the idea, I think. So it's like try to find whatever is just very close to your heart and that you think others might enjoy.